was going yours, you were going my way. We are only fireflies in each other's eyes, burning bright when there's darkness, with a spark that never really dies. That's the spark that never really dies. Hi, folks. Tonight, this afternoon, I'm wearing a Maison Primée. It's my designer. Some of you may know that I've had some mishaps recently. Really, ever since Tyler informed me about the last lecture, I was incredibly honored, right? And I still am, to be asked to speak to you all, and I appreciate everyone being here. I got a little paranoid about the whole last thing, and but then I thought, well, I'll let it go. But I talked to Rob Thompson. Rob, where are you here, Rob? Right? We had that little conversation. You said John's still here, right? So I said, oh, all right, okay. I'm a little less fearful now, right? And before I forget, huge hand to Rob Thompson and the whole cast and crew of Gypsy for a fabulous show. And let's give a huge hand to John, one, for still being here, and two, he did a fabulous inaugural last lecture, right, last time around. So anyway, since all that happened, I tore my right shoulder, I sprained my left ankle, I took a face plant on the cement last Thursday, and then to top it all off, last Friday, I was minding my own business. A bee in my house, a bee came down and stung my left hand because I just wanted to make sure. So I'm being extra cautious right now. In case I get any tears, I got extra here. And, you know, I actually have pants that go with this as well. But do you think I'm safe enough? Do you think I can take this off for now? All right, I'll do that. Okay. Yeah. By the way, you know, if anybody has any stress around exam time, I'll wear this and you can just come and like pop me, right? Pop me. Yeah, we gotta be careful. Title IX, any kind of harassment issues. Just pop in the appropriate places. Right? Okay, so this is what I thought maybe I could change this title around a little bit. So welcome to the oh hell no last lecture. And I thought maybe instead I would think of this as like a mixtape, right? Because, you know, mixtape is kind of part of a courting ritual, at least back in my day. You know, you made a mixtape for someone you were interested in. And I'm obviously interested in all of you, and I care very deeply about all of you. So this is, you know, what can I say that's a lot different than what maybe you've already heard before? So this is kind of my mixtape of love to you, okay? So just some things to think about. First of all, this is kind of my overall philosophy, okay, that life is this huge celebration and we're all invited to the party, right? So some of us get to stay longer. Some of us sadly leave the party sooner, but we all have, you know, a chance to be together and make an impact and celebrate this wonderful thing that we have, right? And don't let me forget, I wanted to put this disclaimer in right now before I forget. I have some treat bags for you before you leave today. But here's my disclaimer. There is a glow stick in the bag. Please do not confuse that with food and like suck it out like you think it's some delicious food treat, because it's supposed to be non-toxic and everything, but then there was this long list of important tips and everything else. So just wanted to make sure, again, like I can put you in bubble wrap, but I can't do anything if you drink the glow stick. Okay? In communication, we talk about everyone having their own frame of reference, right? So your frame of reference is really made up of every experience you've ever had, really from the time that you're aware of anything in your surroundings, and you're taking it all in. Right? You're processing it. You're making all those magical connections. So it also includes all the people in your life. So all the experiences, all the people in your life, your education, right? The more you learn. And it's the window, it's the way I think of it, right? It's the window that you look through to see the world. And so none of us have an identical frame of reference because we all have different experiences, right? Different people in our lives. So I think one thing to think about as you start to think about who you are and what your frame of reference is so that you can successfully deal with other people is to think about who's in your past. So I just wanted to share a few people from my past that have been very important to me. So my mom and dad have wartime pictures up because they met. Yeah, my mom was a pin-up, right? World War II, pin-up. This is as far as she got with being racy, so I don't want the word spreading out there. She and my dad were married for 59 years before he passed away. Very short courtship. That happened a lot during World War II, or any war that can happen. And from both of them, I learned so much, right? We don't have much control ourselves over who picks us up from the nursery. I really lucked out, right? My mom taught me a real joy of life. My dad was a lot more quiet and pretty shy if you met him, but at home he was super fun, right? He taught me to learn to love to read, right? He and my brother would read Dickens novels to each other and do different voices and everything. And I still remember hearing them, joking and laughing and playing those different characters and things. There's my brother. And so he was also I used to call him my favorite male human. That's how I would introduce him to people. And even though we're 7 years apart, he was very generous as a big brother, right? Really, my whole neighborhood was very generous. All the kids that were older let us younger kids in on the action and play. And so he was a huge influence. This is my Aunt Dorothy, and affectionately known as D-Dot. And D-Dot had a lot of special needs, some physical disability, and a lot of speech difficulties. So she could understand what we were all saying to her very well. In fact, sometimes I think D-Dot had kind of a sixth sense about knowing things about people. But she had a lot of problems communicating herself. And so really my mom and I learned her language. That was my first foreign language was D-Dot language. And so I tried to teach her things, right? So I was trying to teach her. I felt really bad because she was born in a time where she had the fortune of being able to be at home with her family her whole life, but she didn't have the opportunity to go to school. And so I thought I was going to teach her, right? So I did flashcards with her and all kinds of stuff. And she was really patient for a while, and then she would get really tired of it. So here's how it might go. I would, hold up a flashcard, and we'd be trying to do numbers. And I would hold up a 1, and she would go, right? And then a 2, and she'd go, oh. And then 3 was Gaffy, Gaffey was 3. And then she would jump to 10 before I could hold up any other flashcards, because she would just get sick of it, right? She'd be like, 10. Now, surprisingly, D-Dot, the words that were very clear that she could say were any kind of cuss words. And I don't know why. And she hated this soap opera star, Asa Buchanan, on One Life to Live. She hated him, and you could hear her in, the room yelling. She would shake her fist at the TV and say, "You bastard," right? And that was like the clearest that she would get with the language. But that was, D-Dot taught me an enormous amount of understanding and empathy. And sometimes seeing people not be kind to D-Dot taught me a lot too, right? This is Bruce Caudle, who I was kind of the love of my life, right, for 15 years. And he has passed on, but we had a magical 15 years together. And I had never really gone many places until I met Bruce, and I was mostly with my family unit and loved it. We had, really had a wonderful family life. But with Bruce, I traveled. We went across country, tented across country, and just had a marvelous experience. And it just really opened up my world to many different things. And he was, everyone's unique. Bruce was one of the most interesting, kindest people I ever knew. He was truly someone that I never heard say one ill word about another person. He was a very sweet person. And then finally, to kind of represent all the animals in my life, because I have so many, this is Orly. He was a rescue doggy from New Orleans. And Bruce actually brought him into my life. So he was our fur child. And so I have had so many babies, fur babies, that have passed my way, and I still do. Not just fur, though, because I've got turtles and, I probably have something in my hair right now living here. So just, the devotion and dedication that animals can bring to your life and the things that they can teach you, huge impact. And by the way, my dad is the one that really taught me to love nature and animals too, because he loved really all critters. And then I kind of had to just put this all in one box here, that family, friends, neighbors, teachers, colleagues, students. So really everybody in this room, has and continues to make an impact on me. You're always seeking to expand your frame of reference, right? So whatever is in your, that you start off with, every new experience that you have opens the door to possibly other experiences. So some big things for me, right? I already mentioned travel, and there I am with Bruce. We were in the Keys at that point. But I have to really give a shout out to theater, because that was a huge part of my life. And if you want to learn empathy, take an acting class. Am I right? Yes? I know I got a lot of actors in the audience, and right, if you want to learn empathy, because you have to understand these words on a page and create a being from these words on a page, and you have to understand why they do what they do. Right? And it's you also learn through theater to observe the world around you very intensely. Right? So I have to put that down as a recommendation, right? Take an acting class. Okay. So this was my first leading, this was the backstage from Dracula, and it was yet a new version of Dracula where Mina was the, actually stakes Dracula in it. And it was almost like a weird Star Wars Dracula where she struggles with the stake, and she hears the voices like Obi-Wan Kenobi, but it's Dracula and Van Helsing are like fighting with each other. So it was all this, I'm kind of embarrassed now, but it was like struggling with this stake. And then on this run, I would go to the orchestra pit and stake Dracula, and kind of an interesting story. The last time I staked Dracula was the last time I saw him, the guy who played Dracula. He didn't come to the cast party, and it was a worry for me every night. So I had to get him right between his armpit and his, and to this day, it still is kind of making me, I don't know. Right. And then the other picture there was a comedy troupe I belonged to called Contents Under Pressure. And that was in Baltimore. We did mostly midnight shows in Fells Point, which was kind of an experience just in itself, right? But I included that because it was one of the most creative times of my life. We wrote a new show every week. We would have a new show. And we did have some contributing writers, but it was a lot of actors that got together from some repertory theater and some other where we had worked together a long time. And we wrote scripts, and we would come up with ideas like, we would be sitting around and we were like, what if the Grim Reaper was going after a folk singer, right? So we'd come up with just these weird premises, and we would end up with something like, I'm being followed by a Grim Reaper, Grim Reaper, Grim Reaper, right? So we'd have these little songs, we'd have these characters, and some of them got to be very popular, and they'd come back, and it was just an intensely creative part of my life. So I wanted to add that in there. And here we are at Chesapeake. I have spent almost half my life now at Chesapeake. I'm in my, oh my God, I don't even want to tell you what year. Oh my God, now you're gonna know. All right, 25th year at Chesapeake. And I deliberately picked pictures of students from long ago because I was so upset to think I might leave someone out who's more current, right? So, but you will see some staff members who have been here a long time as well. And it's a montage of so many things. And I wanted to remind folks to thank the people who have gone before you. So when I started at Chesapeake, there was no student government. It was a student advisory board. They had pretty much been stripped of all their governmental duties. There was no office. We eventually carved out an office. There was a vending area. And I kept walking by it going, those machines don't need all that space, right? And so I eventually, although I will tell you it took me 8 years, right? 8 years. And finally, I got one of the vice presidents in, and he was saying, I don't know if there's enough ventilation if we close this in. And I remember climbing up on a table, and I said, give me a dollar bill, right? And he gave me money, and I went like, it sucked it up, we're fine, right? So we closed this off, and we made a little office. Well, think about where you are now, right? There's, and there's still, we could expand some more, I'm sure, but a lot of the people on this slide are people that really laid the groundwork, and you're doing that for people that will come after you, obviously, too, right? This is from one of my favorite plays, from our town. And I can barely read this without getting like a little soupy, right? About living your present, right, and trying to appreciate, we're all so busy, but trying to appreciate every moment we have at the party, right? So this is my dad at a later stage in life, right, with my nephew. And I kind of use this picture because a real gift that my family gave me and is that we spent so much time together doing things. Not really going places, because honestly we didn't go a lot of places, but we spent so much time together. And that would include, like, I don't know, we'd do little skits together, and we'd like make up characters, and just, I mean, you can probably tell that maybe some of my frame of reference was informed that way, right? And so I guess I just want to say sometimes put down the cell phones and the gadgets, and you guys already know this, right? That, isn't it sad when you go someplace and you see people out eating together, and the first thing they do right? You're thinking to yourself, oh, that's cute, because you probably people watch like I do, right? And you're thinking like, oh, but the first thing they do is everybody gets out their device. And what are you really saying to other people? You're saying, whoever is on this device is more important than you are, right? So, we had the same thing happen with the automobile as a tool, as a piece of technology. When things were slower, the world looks different. And so, I wouldn't give up my vehicle, but sometimes if you walk places, you see things differently than you do if you're racing by in a car. The world is different. And so kind of the same thing with the technology. When you can put it down and be in the moment and be present with people, that's something I think is really important. I just love this little toad here. This is just a reminder, and again, I'm sure you have all thought of these things before, but that sometimes you get really surprising, wonderful things in some unusual packages. And when I talk about putting down the cell phones and things like that, I have been known to kind of just sit somewhere and I could watch an ant. I swear, I could watch an ant for like a half hour or more, right? Just like, oh, they do this little thing with their, oh, it looks like he's in Greece. He's like pulling back his antenna, he's doing this. And then I get like a little voice for him and stuff, right? But, you can really pay more attention to the world around you, and it's so rich. It's so full of things, right? I was going to put a blobfish on here. Have you seen the blobfish? I feel so bad for him because he's been voted one of the ugliest animals, And he's a very interesting little creature. But anyway, check him out sometime if you haven't seen one. Okay, you know how people tell you, just be yourself, be your authentic self. But the only thing I want to note is that if you are yourself, and you're not being really a very nice human being, then don't take that first advice, work on some things, and then be your authentic self. Okay? Got it, right? By the way, I have to give some applause to Jeremy Crow, who helped me get some of these pictures. I pulled out, like a lot of this is stuff from my office that I pulled out. And he was kind enough to take these pictures for me, so thank you, Jeremy. Another thing from my office, right, Scrat. So I guess I was telling somebody right before we started this that I originally had written, don't get in your own way when chasing your nut, because that's what Scrat does, right, in Ice Age. And then I looked in the Urban Dictionary, again, look it up for yourself. I was a little afraid, just look it up for yourself, because I can't even, it'll be another Title IX issue, just can't go there, okay? So anyway, I guess I just want to say here, think about your strengths, go with those strengths, work on your weaknesses, but know what you're good at. Don't let yourself, get distracted sometimes, or do things where you think you don't have a choice and you really do have a choice. Because I think a lot of us, myself, I forget that sometimes too. I'm so used to doing things a certain way that I forget that I actually have a bunch of different paths I could take, and if I just gave it a little bit more thought and just didn't automatically do something that might put me somewhere or do something that, God, it sounds like I'm a criminal or something, I don't mean that, but, where I could have made a better choice. Okay, so I really just don't limit yourself. Okay. And I had to put this in because those of you who know me know I have this, intense affection for The Walking Dead. It really is a story about characters. The zombies are a plus, right? I won't lie, they're pretty good. But put a couple things to worry about. The dark side. Okay, don't get bit by the dark side. Stay away from a lot of negatives, negative people, negative situations, right? You get the idea. And we know what happened to poor Darth Vader. He got lured to the dark side. So just be careful of that. Obviously, this summer, here's my public service announcement. Please make sure that you are using insect repellent because of the Zika virus and other pathogens brought by the mosquitoes. Okay, I have that. We know about Gollum too, right? That getting bit by wanting what maybe you don't have, that maybe others have. There's actually a syndrome now, I don't know if you've heard of this, it's called FOMO. It's all about social media, and FOMO is fear of missing out. And so it's when you look at other people's social media and you start to get jealous because they get to do all this stuff, and you kind of forget that they just pick the highlights of their life to post, right? But really, there is something now, fear of missing out, and people can go into depressions and things like that. And you know, Gollum kind of got lured by Precious, okay? And then I just, you know, if we do have a zombie apocalypse, and by the way, Amber did this for me, she zombified me. If we do by chance, I know it's just a show, right? But just by chance, just be careful. Okay. And then tried to put this in Yoda speak as best I could. You know, if ever lose your way, you should. Your Yoda must you find. Okay. So know the people in your life that can help you get back on the right path, right? Hopefully you have several Yodas. These are all students. Well, not the squirrel, but that's a student holding the squirrel. But these are all students who have done some remarkable things. And honestly, over the years of doing service projects, I really want the students to know thousands of hours out in the community. Your time adds up. Right? And this is just like some pictures from some projects that people did in Com 101 class. And this doesn't count all the great student organizations. And I see you got something going on there, right? For the Thirst Project. So every little bit helps pay forward the best of you and helps other people. That squirrel, by the way, is my God squirrel. His name is Jarvis, and he was rescued by the, I don't know if you know, some of you might know Carlin or Shay McLam. By the McLam family, they do, a lot of animal rescues, and that was Jarvis. I got to name him, so he became my God squirrel. Okay. Here we are at track 4, right? We've looked at the past a little bit and the present, and now, you know, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but another one of my favorite authors and books there. We are repositories of everyone that has gone before us, and then, you know, we get to pass that forward to all of you, and you will do the same for everybody in your life, right? So, big piece of advice. Sometimes I think I want to start every class I ever teach by just putting a big question mark on the board and reminding people that, you know, it's a sign of intelligence to ask questions and to be curious about the world around you. And that's another way you expand your frame of reference and grow. And we have that curiosity as children. Sometimes we lose it. I'm not sure what happens, right? But sometimes we do. And on that note, you know, this idea of cherishing the child in you. I still remember doing some activities, and I remember one time we had a reggae band, and the early childhood center had come over to listen to the band, and I looked at them, and they were all dancing, you know, and twirling to the music, and then I looked over at some other students, and they were just kind of like, you know, a little thing like that. And I was going over, dance, dance, like trying to get people to dance. And I think most people in this room, you probably would have been right with the kids dancing, right, too. But, you know, what is it that, yes, filters, yes, those things that sometimes we need on our inner child, but I guess I really want to say, don't let the bad things in life harden you to the point where you can't find that child anymore, because it's a wonderful part of you inside of you. And so I want to advise that you stay forever young. And with a little help from my friends, really, to me, one of the most special portions of the presentation is coming up now.
May the good Lord be with you down every road you roam. And may sunshine and happiness surround you when you're far from home. May you grow to be proud, dignified, and true. And do unto others as you'd have done to you. Be courageous and be brave. In my heart you'll always stay forever young. Forever young. May good fortune be with you. May your guiding light be strong. Till the stairway to heaven, the principle of vagabond. May you never love in vain, and in my heart you will remain forever young. Forever young. When you finally fly away, I'll be hoping that I serve you well. For all the wisdom of a lifetime, no one can ever tell. But whatever road you choose, I'm right behind you. Win or lose, forever young. 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 Forever young.
Good job. Okay.